Hello everyone, and welcome to my tutorial. In this lesson, I will show you how to create the Instagram front-end user interface. We won't go much into too much detail, but I will teach you various techniques. And at the end of the tutorial, you will learn how to make this app from scratch, like this one. Our main focus will be on the home screen, and there are four major sections on the screen. The first one is the header. The header consists of the logo and the navigation icons. Then we have the stories. So the stories is horizontally scrollable. Then we have multiple posts, and we have the tab bar. So let's get started. First, we need a mockup of the app, and we can find one in Figma. So here at the top, go to the community, then search for your desired UI. In our case, it's going to be Instagram. And there's a bunch. So one that I really is the Instagram UI kit by Ashley Seo. So in here, you can duplicate. Then let's go to the IG post updated. And here we have the screen that we need. It is essential to understand the correct spacing between elements and the structure of the screen. Like so. Luckily for us, we have all the design done in Figma. Then we need to download the assets. So there's two ways. The first one is do it manually. So for each logo and all the small icons over here, we can go to export. So you have to select them one by one, go to export SVG, or you can download my assets folder that is already pre-made with all the assets in it. I will leave a link in the description below. When all this are done, let's create a project. So open Xcode and click on the first button to create a project. And in here, select app, then next. And at the top, let's give a name to your project. I will name it Instagram-app. Make sure that the interface is SwiftUI. And then next. Create. So let's maximize your app. And before everything else, let's take a look at the default template that Apple provides. At the top, here for iPod Touch, let's click it here and select the iPhone 13 Pro. This is the device that we will be previewing on. Then click on Resume. If it is your first time building or previewing an app, it might take a lot of time. So in the code, you can see that we have a body. And inside the body, we have a text with Hello World and some paddings. This is what we see in the preview. So before starting the coding, let's import the assets. I will minimize Xcode, select the assets folder, and our assets folder, select everything, and just drag and drop here. And you see that we have some icons and a picture of a dog, the logo, and some profile pictures. Let's go back to the content view. So maximize and select the content view. All right, so let's work on the header. In the header, you'll see that we have a logo, which is at the left, and then three icons at the right. We have a padding of 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom, and 15 left. The spacing between the icons is 20 pixels. So let's translate this in code. So first, we're going to replace the text by the logo. So here, let's delete that and use an image view. And then for the image, we're going to call the logo. So whatever that is between the quotes is the name of the assets. And here I am referring to the logo. Then we need to wrap this inside of a H stack, which is a horizontal layout. And after that, we can add other views, such as 3 other images. This one is the add icon. Then we have the heart icon. And the last one is the messenger. After that, we need to push the logo at the left and the 3 icons at the right. And to do so, we have a view called the spacer. The spacer will take the maximum space possible. So here it's going to push everything, the logo at the left, and take the maximum space, and then the icons at the right. Then on the H stack, we can add some paddings. So here on the horizontal axis, it was 15 pixels. And then the padding on the vertical axis of 3 pixels. Then to be able to add some spacings between the icons, we have to wrap the 3 images inside another H stack. And then add 20 pixels of spacing. And with that, the header is done. The other problem that we're facing is to find a way to push the header at the top. And to do that, we need another spacer. So currently we only have a horizontal layout, which is the H stack. So we need to wrap this inside a V stack like that. And then inside of the V stack here, we can add another spacer. And now you see that the header is pushed at the top. This V stack will become the main container. So just to be sure that every single spacing is at 0, you can come and click on it, then go to the inspector and set the spacing to 0. So now let's talk about subview. Here we have the header, but if we have to code every single element like this, the code will become very huge and not very readable. And this is why we can come and click on it and then create a subview, which is basically taking your stack and making it into a component. Let's select extract subview and let's name it header. So remember that if you change the name here, we also need to change the structure name over there. Then everything should work. So let's resume. And we have no errors. Usually, it is a lot better to just create a new file for a new component. But in this case, if you know that the header is a component mainly for the home screen, you can make it into a subview instead. And now the main body is a lot cleaner. Let's move on to the second part, the stories. This part is structured as a horizontal scroll. So first, we have a single story. Then we have the container, which is the stories because it contains multiple ones. And that container is scrollable. So under the header, let's use the vstack. And inside of the vertical stack, we will be using the image view with the profile. And as you can see, this image is way too big. So for the image, we need to use the resizable modifier. And with that, we can set a frame. So the frame will be 60 pixels for the width and 60 pixels for the height. And let's remove the alignment. Then let's set the corner radius to 50. And like this, we have a nice profile. So the outer circle is a bit tricky to achieve. To do it, we need to place a circle over the image and then only use the stroke with a gradient background. Go to the vstack and let's use the overlay modifier. On the overlay, we can use any kind of views. So here I will be using the circle. And on the circle, there's a modifier called stroke. This modifier will basically remove the background color in the middle and only use the stroke around it. So here, let's use the linear gradient for the colors. And on the linear gradient, we need the colors, the start point, and the end point. The colors is an array, so it's a list. And for us, we're going to use a list of preset colors, which is dot red. Then we have the dot purple, dot red again, orange, yellow, and let's end it with orange. The start point is basically the start of your linear gradient. In our case, it's going to be the top leading, which is the top left. And the end point is the bottom trailing, which is the bottom. The stroke, after taking the color, takes a line width. So here you can see that we have a very thin line. So we can set the line width here, which is 2.3. And now you see that the profile has a gradient circle around it. To add the spacing, we can just increase the frame of the circle. So here, let's add another frame, which the value needs to be bigger than the actual image. So here, let's use 68 and 68 and remove the alignment. And now the only thing missing to complete the story is the text. So here, for the vstack, let's embed it inside another vstack. And right after the parentheses, let's use the text view and then just type your name. So as you can see, the name is way too big. So we're going to use the font modifier with the dynamic type from Apple. And let's use caption. Similar to the header, we are going to take the outer vstack and make it into a component with extract subview. And here, let's call it story. So copy the name and at the bottom, change it here. So at the moment, the component is static and not dynamic. And in order to make it flexible, we need to store two things. First, the image, and then the name. So in the story component, here we're going to declare two different variables. The first one is the image, which is a string. This is the type is equal to the default value, which is the profile. And now that we can remove this profile and use the image variable instead. And we're going to do the same thing for the name. The name is also a string. And in here, type your name. And we can remove the name here, which is static, and use the variable. So now at the top, if I call another story, I will be able to use a different name. I will image and name. So here I will use the profile 2 and the name is Mento. Resume. And to get the horizontal layout, we are going to wrap them inside the H stack. Copy paste the story 8 times. Then for the profile, change it to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And here we're going to change the name. So as you can see here, the layout is pretty much broken and the name doesn't fit well. And this is because we're trying to fit a lot of content that does not fit in the width of the device. And to fix this issue, we can use the horizontal scroll view. So here, let's use the scroll view, parentheses, and the scroll view takes 2 arguments. The first one is the direction, so it can be horizontal or vertical, and the show indicator. So here we are using the dot horizontal, and let's set the show indicators to false. Then inside the brackets, copy paste the H stack. And now you can see that it works. So now let's add the correct spacing and paddings. First, on the H stack, let's set the spacing to 15. And then on the same H stack, we need to add a padding horizontal of 8. And on the scroll view, we can also add a padding, but vertical, of 10. And now you see that the top is cut. So let's go to the story and let's add a frame that it will be bigger than the circle. So here, let's add it to 70. So we can test it by running the play preview. And it seems that everything is working properly. Then let's make it into a component. So on the scroll view, extract subview, and let's rename it to stories. Change the name here. And let's make sure that everything is okay. and the component seems to work perfectly. So now let's work on the next part, which is the post. Right after the stories, we have a divider, and then we have the post. The post consists of the header, the image/content, and then the comment below. Back to the code. Here, after the stories, we can use a divider view. This is provided from Apple, and you can see that there's a line. So let's talk about the post header. Layout-wise, this is fairly simple. The left side has an image and text, and the right side has an icon. So for the layout, let's use stack, and then add an image. This image is the profile, and similar to before, let's add a resizable modifier. Then let's set the frame to 30 pixels, and let's remove the alignment and the corner radius to 50. Then after, in the same stack, let's add our name. So the text view with William. Let's set the font to .caption and the font weight to .bold. Like that. So now let's wrap the H stack in another H stack. And here, let's add a spacer. That way, we're going to push the content to the left. And after this spacer, let's add an image for the more icon. Like this. Then, on the H stack, let's add the correct paddings. So the first paddings is the vertical one to 10. And then let's add the padding on the horizontal axis to 8. Let's make it into a component. So extract subview. This one is going to be the post header. So as you can see, the file is becoming longer. If you want, you can create new files and just add these components inside. Let's talk about the post content. The post content has the image, then 3 icons to the left, and the bookmarks icon to the right. After the post header, let's add an image. For the profile, then add the resizable modifier, and let's set the frame. But in this one, I will use the full width of the screen. And to do that, we can use .infinity. For the alignment and the height, we won't set one, so that way it will be dynamic. And you can see that it is taking the full height, so the aspect ratio is not correct. And we can add a aspect ratio modifier to .fit. Just like that. After that, let's embed the image inside a VStack. And right after the image, an HStack for the icons. So here, I will add the first HStack for the 3 icons, which is 3 different images. The first icon is the heart one. Then we have the comment. And the last one is share. So for this H tag, let's add some spacing of 10 pixels. Then we can push the whole content by adding a spacer. And then the right icon, which is the bookmarks. Just like that. And at the end, we can add the paddings. So horizontal to 12 pixels and vertical to 9 pixels. And now don't forget to set the spacing to 0. So this portion is the post content. Let's resume and see if we have any errors. So everything looks fine. And the last portion is just a bunch of text and then the comment section. Back to the code. First, let's embed the post header inside a VStack, and let's add the post content in it. So that way we have this stack, which is composed of the header, the content, and the text. Here there's a gap. Let's set the spacing to 0. All right, so after the post content, let's add the first text in quotes. Let's put liked by Mengto and others. The first modifier is the font, so let's set it to footnote. Then the frame. For the width, let's take the entire width of the container, so dot infinity. Let's remove the alignment and the height. So now you see that the text is centered. So in HTML, we can use something called align, text align left. So if you set the VStack to alignment.leading, it will do the same thing. Then let's add a padding dot horizontal to 12. So let's add a second text, which is the description, and I will say I miss traveling to Japan. Let's add the same modifiers, so the font to dot footnote, the frame to dot infinity, and the paddings horizontal 12 pixel. So now for the icons, we can add an H tag. And inside that H tag, we need another one. So the first image is the profile. Dot resizable. Let's set the frame to 24 pixels. And the corner radius to 50. After that, we can add a text, the comment, and 3 dots. This one, let's set the font to caption and then the foreground color to dot secondary. And you'll see that it's a grayish instead of black. And right after that, for this H stack, we're going to set the spacing to 7 pixels. And let's set the padding. So here for the horizontal, 12 pixels, and the vertical one to 9 pixels. Now it is perfectly aligned, and it's just missing the icon. So let's add a spacer to make sure that the other icons are to the right. And let's add a H stack. To add an emoji, we can use the text view. And then do Control Command Space, and it will open the emoji tab. So here I will add the heart one, another one, the laughing, and the last one is a plus. So for this one, we can use the image. And instead of using an asset, you can use an icon from the system, which is the SF symbols from Apple. So you can refer them by using the system name and the name of the icon. So mine is plus.circle. To change the color, we can use the foreground color dot secondary. Just like that. And we can move these paddings this H tag instead. So right after that, let's make this stack into a component. And let's call it post. So similar to the stories component, we're going to use variables to make the post dynamic. So here, the first thing that we're going to change is the image. Which is profile. And the second thing is the description. Which is, I miss traveling to Japan. In here, let's change the variables. So this one, let's replace it by the description variable. And the image is technically inside of the post content. So let's go to the post content and add this variable. So let's change this image by the image variable. So here in this post content, we have access to the image, and we're going to use this image variable over here. At the top, we can use this component twice. And in here, we can change the image as well as the description. The image, I will use a dog. And for the description, I will write almost 2 years old. So you can see that we have 2 posts and it looks good. The only issue that we have is that the image are resized, and this is because the post height is trying to fit in the height of the device. To fix this issue, first, let's remove this extra spacer. And then we need to add a scroll view. So we want the scroll view to start around here and to the bottom. We do not want the logo, well, the header, to be scrollable. So right after the header, use the scroll view. And similar to the stories, we have 2 arguments. But instead of using the horizontal one, we're going to use the vertical scroll and show indicator to false. Then we can copy paste the stories, divider, post inside. Like this. So if you preview, you can see that the content is scrollable. The image have the right aspects ratio, and the header is always at the top. And this scroll works as well. What's left to do is the tab bar. So the layout of the tab bar is simply a divider and then a H stack with 5 icons. Back in the code, right after the scroll view, let's add a V-stack. Then let's set the spacing to 0 and add a divider view. After that, we're going to add a H stack with 5 different icons. So the first image is home. And then we have the search. Then we have the reels. The fourth one is shop. And the fifth one is our profile picture. So for this one, let's add a resizable. Let's set the frame to 21, 21, and remove the alignment. And set the corner radius to 50. So now we have the 5 icons. On the H stack, let's add some paddings. So on the horizontal axis of 25, and then we do not want to set the bottom one, so we can use dot top to 10. To have an even space between each icons, we can add a spacer like that. And there you go. We have a tab bar. So let's make this into a component. And there you go. This is how you code the Instagram front-end UI under an hour. I hope that you guys really liked the video. and I will see you on the next one.